Today we're going to talk about some supplements you should avoid if you have SIBO. Hey, it's Dr. Meyer. I'm a functional medicine doctor, family doctor, and registered dietitian. I have a channel that focuses on gut health, hormone health, and metabolic health. So if you're interested in any of those topics, check out my playlist down below. Welcome back if you're coming back. Thanks so much for your support. And welcome for the first time if it's your first time. And there's lots of great information on those topics here. So I've been working with patients in my own practice for over like 10 years now on their gut health, on their hormone health, and on their metabolic health. I started this channel back in 2019 for that very reason, to help those on YouTube to help feel healthier, reclaim their energy, start feeling better, understand their long-term symptoms that have made them feel so bad. Because a lot of times there's not a functional medicine doctor in your community, or maybe you don't have the resources for it, or maybe you just don't know where to start. So there's great information here, but today we're going to focus on one of the popular topics on my channel called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I have a whole playlist for SIBO. I have an ebook for SIBO, so I'm going to put all that stuff in the description. But today let's talk about what some problematic supplements can be for SIBO. So what do we mean by problematic? Well, with SIBO, you can have bloating, you can have gas, you can have diarrhea, constipation, all that uncomfortable stuff. You can also have rashes and acne and yeast infections and all kinds of like weakness. So those things are all possible with SIBO. And what we mean by problematic supplements for SIBO are those that can make those symptoms worse, mainly the bloating, the gas, the abdominal symptoms, but they could flare some of those other symptoms because they're feeding the imbalance in the gut bacteria. If you want to learn more about SIBO, again, start from the beginning and check out my playlist. So some of the main things I see with people is I'm like, stop the prebiotics and stop anything that's probiotic with prebiotics in it. So that would include anything with inulin, food or prebiotic or supplement. Read your labels. Like Kind bars are great, but they have inulin in them. And for people with SIBO, that's going to make them feel worse a lot of the times. Look for fructooligosaccharides, and that's often shortened as FOS. You can look for GOS, galacto-oligosaccharides. You can look for MOS. So that one, I always forget, mannan oligosaccharides. So that one you don't see as much, maybe in some probiotic supplements you might. So definitely check your labels when you're taking a probiotic. If you think you have SIBO, stay away from those OSs. And then larch, sorry, I'm talking too fast. Arabinogalactan, I always have a tough time with that one too. Those are prebiotics also that could cause trouble. And then chicory root. Chicory root and inulin can be used interchangeably. There's a lot of like chicory root coffee in Louisiana, New Orleans area, and that can be great when you have a good intact digestive tract. But when you have SIBO, prebiotics are not going to agree with you until you get that SIBO treated. And that's one of the main, not one of the ways, but it's one of the things I ask people when I'm trying to kind of parse out if they have SIBO before we do the testing. Also, anything with gums in it can be difficult for SIBO. So not like chewing gum, although the artificial sugar, like the sugar alcohol in that, can be rough, and I'll talk about that. But like acacia gum, beta-glucan, guar gum, not the PHGG. That's what we use in the sun fiber, one of my favorite SIBO-friendly fibers, which I'll put a link for in the description. But just regular guar gum is difficult to tolerate. The locust bean gums, anthem gum, mastic gum, any of the gums, read your labels, your food labels too. Read your, especially like your protein bar or energy bar labels. They can sometimes have the prebiotics in there. Definitely if they're like keto, they can have the chicory root or inulin in there. And then look for starch. So maltodextrin can be difficult to tolerate, tapioca starch, potato starch, rice starches, even corn starch, arrowroot starch. So look for something that ends in starch. And yes, you can definitely find those a lot in gluten-free foods. So if you went gluten-free and then you found that even those foods triggered you, that could be SIBO. And then soluble fibers. So yes, soluble fibers are good for you in a lot of ways, like flax and chia, but flax and chia can be triggers for SIBO. Pectin can be a trigger for SIBO. And brands, like bran, BRAN, those can be trigger for SIBO. So your fibers could be very tricky when you have SIBO and make things worse. Even though they are good for your gut in general, you got to treat the SIBO first and then introduce them again. Seaweeds can be tricky, so any kind of seaweed food or supplement, mucilaginous herbs, and what that means is the ones that kind of coat the stomach. So a lot of times you'll find these in H. pylori blends or acid reflux blends, natural blends, and then in like teas that soothe the stomach. So we're talking about like marshmallow root and licorice and aloe vera, comfrey, and slippery elm. So yes, those herbs do have a place in soothing the stomach, but they can make SIBO worse. So it's really tricky. You have to read all your labels when you're working on your SIBO problem and keep these out. And then after you heal the gut, usually takes a month or two, you could introduce these back in, but they could also trigger your SIBO again. So you really have to do it on a case-by-case basis and be very careful with introducing anything a lot at once, because it may be that you have chronic SIBO and you're not going to be able to tolerate these ingredients. So you do have to take this step by step. I can't individualize it to everybody online because everybody's different. And then, like I said, sugar alcohols, so those end in OL, so like mannitol, erythritol, xylitol, any of those, they're going to be used a lot in keto or energy bars or protein bars or even in your protein powder sometimes. So definitely check for those. In gum, like chewing gum are going to have those, like I said before. So check for those if you have SIBO and avoid those. And then sweeteners, you got to be careful with. There's the clover honey is okay, but like agave sucralose is a bad one that can trigger a lot of SIBO, bloating and gas symptoms. And high fructose corn syrup, of course, we want to avoid that anyway. It's not good for anything, bad for inflammation and heart disease and diabetes and obesity and all of that as well. Fructose, so fruits, yeah, but really high fructose fruits can sometimes be triggers. So if you really want to know the fruit triggers, check out either my ebook, which has not only the best diet for SIBO, but how to test for SIBO, how to treat for SIBO with all my dosing protocols and recommended foods. So it's got lots of information in it. Or check out my other video on the SIBO diet. So those will really help you through picking the right sweetener. And then some other supplements that have sugar in them, like D-mannose. Some of the cranberry supplements have D-mannose in them, the ones that are good for UTIs. So check that out because D-mannose is a sugar. Glucosamine can be a trigger, chondroitin. So if you're using that for your joints, that can be a trigger for SIBO. And then I think I covered all the other. Oh, cognac. I'm probably not saying that right. It's not the liquor cognac, but Konjak, root, again, can be a trigger also. And N-acetylglucosamine. So just a different version of glucosamine. So I know that sounds like a lot, but it doesn't mean that you can never have anything with these in there. It just means that if these are triggering SIBO, well, first of all, that's a sign that you might have SIBO. And then second of all, you want to work on the SIBO and then introduce these one at a time if you need them. Don't try to introduce a lot of them. Keep them to a minimum because you could have recurrent SIBO and it could trigger that. So you have to be careful. So if you're curious about any more information about SIBO, check out my playlist. Definitely check out the ebook, very affordable. You can get it on Kindle. I'll have a link down below. You can get it directly. So definitely something to help you through the whole process. And check out the videos I have on testing. And then I also have my lab shop that I'll put in the description where you can order your own SIBO test, or you can also order a food marble test to do your test for SIBO and then use that device and check out my other videos on that to then test your foods later on. It's a great device, so there's a discount link for that too. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe and share and like, and I'll see you next time.